Hey guys, hi, it's Takshit here, and this video is building your SaaS in 2025. This video is being created because there are a lot of tools that keep dropping up every week, every month, and some tool does UI better, some tool is good for backend, and there's no roadmap that one can follow to actually go about building your SaaS with using the right AI tools. So that is what I'm trying to cover in this video. We've been in this space for 1.5 years, so we've tried all the tools, and we keep prototyping with all the tools that keep dropping up. So this map has been created, roadmap has been created, keeping all that in mind. So let's dive into it, and I'll show you why I'm focusing in 2025 SaaS landscape, because 2025 landscape has changed since last year. There is more need of validating your ideas at speed and having the same functionality that you're planning it with. So importance of that has been stressed by tools like Lovable and Bold, and everyone's trying to focus their attention there. There has been a shift to building more with AI. People used to hire front end and UI designers earlier on in the project roadmap itself, but that's not how they're going about it. People usually now build their MVP initially by themselves, and then once they have a set MVP that they're happy with, that they can pitch to investors, then is where then they go about hiring front end guys or developers for whatever thing they need it for. So on the focus side, what has actually been happening is there is more stress being given on coming up with coding models. Coding models are getting better day by day, so there is more expectancy on landing the boilerplate code correct in the first go. If you are envisioning one kind of functionality to be present in your MVP, then it should be there in the first iteration of the code generation itself. That is what is the overall expectancy now in the from the coding models that have gotten better, and that is the overall goal today. How you can use some of the better AI SaaS products that already exist. Some are backed by Y Combinator, some are just famous for how good they are. So how to use all those tools together for each of these building stages, so that you have a correct roadmap of how to go about building your SaaS. So the roadmap that we're going to follow today has some of these stages: ideation and inspiration, rapid UI UX development, UI to code, and then eventually backend and deployment. We're going to cover how to ideate your products, how to find winning products already, what is actually working for SaaS companies in their design, how you can copy those designs to then eventually tweak them a little and make them your own. Then eventually translating that UI that you have finalized into front end code, and then integrating that into a working product. How do you go about doing that? So that is on the roadmap for today. So let's dive deep into it. I'll just start here itself. Phase one is ideation and inspiration. You should copy from the masters directly. You don't need to go about building anything from scratch. You don't need a Figma designer, a Framer developer, nothing of that. You just need good inspiration on, I'll tell you how to do it, and keep what you like from that. If you like something, just copy it blatantly. This is how great artists do. I am forgetting the code, but good artists copy, great artists steal. So sorry gather inspiration in the terms of UI and UX. Do you think that a theme suits your overall product? Do you think that certain kind of text font you want to use and everything? So build everything around that. Once you have that finalized, then later on we can go on to finalizing the UI using image generation tools, which is the phase two of it. So just let me drop into the next tools that we're using currently for inspiration, which are Landing Folio, Seesaw, and Dribbble. So coming on to the themes and inspiration, where you can get inspired from. These are some of the main three websites that we use: Landing Folio, Seesaw, and Dribbble. And I'll show you all these three. Let me come to Dribbble first, and then I'll cover Landing Folio and then Seesaw later on. So Dribbble is known for having world's top designers posting their illustrations, their designs here. So if you go to Dribbble and you want to find, say, web designs for SaaS, names of the developers who must have who must have created these. So this is by Art Crowd. It is U18 landing page design for SaaS startups, about the client and task, and everything that you see, it is there already. If you click on any of the pages, you can see them. Same goes for landing folio. Landing folio is a little bit detailed. You find here actual websites that are live right now. So for example, I'll open Riley, and if you want to visit this site, you can also visit it, and you can see how it looks actually. So this is a well designed site, I'd say, honestly. And like this, you have a lot of pages, landing pages, pricing pages, about pages, anything that you find, anything you want to find specifically, they have that. And you can also go to their component library, their templates. This is for overall inspiration. If you select your SaaS as industry, then it will only show design inspirations for SaaS. Then if you want to see it specifically for tech, then these are some for from tech websites that are popular. And coming to Seesaw, you'll see almost similarly websites for e-commerce, websites for fintech. So now that I've showed you all the websites, I'm coming back to Dribbble because I like this design by Outcrowd. It is called UI8 landing page design for SaaS startups. And it's a pretty minimalistic design, honestly, nothing much going on, just a simple landing page. And there's a feature section, a pricing section, FAQ section, and so very clean and very simple looking. And that's what I like about it. I like the call to action button that they have in center. So I'm using this as inspiration for this video. So let me just open this as separate images. I'll open both of these. So I like the overall view. This is what I'll try to recreate in our design. And same goes for these sub pages that are available, feature, pricing, and FAQ pages. You also see mobile design here on the right hand side, but we won't need to focus on that since that is out of the scope for today's video. We're only focusing on the desktop app building right now. So the next phase is phase 2, which is rapid UI, UX, and design. In this, the design cycle that we follow usually is rapidly trying to build whatever we want as our first MVP in terms of UI. So how do we go about doing that? We first take an inspiration. I really like that design that we have from Outcrowd. It is very simple looking. If you wanna take any other design, feel free to go ahead and take that up. And once we have something as inspiration, now what we'll do is we'll use the image generation tools that are available in the market right now and try to emulate those designs in our design mockups. So for that, we'll use image generation tools based on transformer models mostly, because in this year, in 2025, transformer models have become really good at image generation. Earlier, if you remember, you must have also tried some of the tools for image generation. They were not very good at generating the exact text inside those images like you wanted them to, because they were based on stable diffusion. But now the transformer technology has taken the lead, and they're also being used for image generation, like how ChatGPT is using it. It has exactly aced that part of generating the text exactly how you want it to be. So that is the reason that we're going to use those tools to come up with our design first. Why I'm stressing on this is because it's better if you're a beginner or a non-technical person, it's better for you to first ace and finalize the design first of what you're actually trying to build, the landing page, the subsection pages, everything. Keep that handy. Once you're happy with that, then translate that into front end code rather than going the other way. The reason for that is if you anyways try to bring that into front end, it'll mess up that code firstly, because the coding models rarely get it right in the first go. You can obviously make changes, but if you're not aware how the code works, which section is stored in which code file, so it's better that if you firstly have an idea of what you have as reference, and then you can keep feeding that reference again and again to your LLM, whatever you're going to use for front end building. So finalizing the image of your design mockup first is it's a priority. So for that, we're going to follow this pattern of firstly creating changes using this tool. In our case, we're using 4O image generation, and then we'll keep iterating the changes over and over until we're happy with the design. Then we'll eventually take that to front end. So there are also 2-3 options that I'll suggest if you are someone who does not want to burn any cash on these tools, because ChatGPT 4O, by the way, is a paid tool. So let me open a new session. So you need to select 4O for image generation, since that is the model that supports it currently. And you can just select the image that you want and ask to make any changes directly. But it is paid. It is a paid tool right now as of recording this video under ChatGPT Plus subscription. And if you're doing that, then make sure you are having the pocket to pay $15 to $20 for it, because currently you only get 3 usages for free per day of it. Let me just go ahead and ask to make the changes. I already like the design. The maximum that I want to do is maybe replace this logo that is going on here and make it about my agency. If I want to make any of the changes in the text, I'll ask to do that. But mostly I'll change the logo, the text that should be here. That is it. And the way to do is includes a little bit of prompt engineering, because it does not get you the resolution that you're going for in the first go. This is an experience of mine after using this for creating mockups. So I'll show you what I mean by that. But let me type out what I want in the changes for it. So I'll mention create exactly this mockup for me, but just replace the logo on the top left with my agency's name. My agency's name is DharatalAI, and I want everything else to remain the same: the font, text style, the font size, the header, footer, hero section, the image, the button's color. Keep everything exactly the same and make this change. And try not to follow the 1:1 ratio. Keep it in 16:9 ratio, optimized for laptop screens and desktop screens. Also, by the way, if you are wondering how I'm talking and this text is getting printed, so this tool that I'm using here, if you're wondering that how did he say this and got written, it is a tool called Whisperflow. Just Google Whisper, WISPR, and you'll be able to find it. So that exactly transcribes what I'm saying and uh, inputs that as text. So the issue that you'll face mostly is that you need to include in your prompt. It's just a simple prompt engineering that mostly the kind of image that ChatGPT 4O model tries to gives you is 1:1 ratio. So you need to specifically mention that, hey, my image should be in 16:9 ratio resolution, and it should be optimized for desktop screens. Otherwise, it will give you a cropped image. So in our case, it understood that in the first go. So it might take you another response to make it understand if it doesn't do that in the first place. But it mostly understands if you ask it to do it in this way. So it has made all the changes. I'm happy with the output that it is generating for me right now. Let's see if there's anything that I need to change. Hopefully, I won't have any changes that I need to make. So let's see once it is done. Cool, almost looks almost perfect. The text is correct. Okay, so maybe streamline is not correct here. We can ask to make changes there. The button has correct edges. The text could have been a little bit less bold. I got the logo replaced, so that is perfect. The UI.net is still there, so we'll have to replace that also. So this is where the third step comes of refinement. So even though you're using image generation models, it's good to keep refining that using prompting again and again until you're happy with the overall design. It doesn't take more than 2 or 3 prompts, honestly. if you're clear in your head what you need, and fill in as much detail as you want, because that will actually help the image generation model to be guided. Once you're happy with the overall design, you can take that forward, and I'll cover that part in the next phase. So right now, the change that I want to do, maybe if I wanted to make any change, I would select this text of streamline, and I'll mention get the spelling of streamline correct. It is currently streamline, and it will make that change for me. So meanwhile it does that. Also, we forgot to include that we had to uh, make the changes and keep the resolution as same, so it might give us a square image like you can see here. So let me just stop it for now, and add that inside my prompt directly. Also keep the resolution in 16 to 9 like how it is right now, and everything else is perfect. Don't change anything else. So now hopefully it will give us a same resolution of image, so that should work. Once that is done, I'll cover the next alternative that you have, because I know that not everyone has pocket to buy the subscriptions of ChatGPT Plus every time if you want to try a new tool, or and specifically if you only have a simple requirement like this one, then it does not make sense for you to buy a subscription only for this. So I'll also suggest an alternative, but that is not based on transformer technology for image generation. So it might hallucinate a bit here and there, but it also does the job if you're trying to do it using a free tool available online. So let's wait for this to get completed first. So the interesting thing that you can maybe observe is, even though it did get the spelling wrong earlier, but it did not give us any gibberish text like it was going out of place, or there was any alphanumerical kind of text that was there. It was just plain English, even though it got the spelling wrong. But we can change that. So now you can see the spelling of streamline is also correct. Everything is perfect for us. So we can save this as an image maybe to be used later on when we try to create front end. So I've saved it. Now let me go to the other option that we have rather than using image generation tool. So this tool is called UIZard. UIZard is pretty popular. It got popular in 2023 when it came out. So it was famous for text to UI kind of generation, UI design mockups. And what it used to do was you just had to drop a name of the app that you're trying to create, maybe say a restaurant booking app, and then what it will do is it will come up with the wireframes for it. So a wireframe is, in simple terms, just a user flow of the pages that your user will see when they try to navigate through your app. So it used to create the wireframes for you in the first rendition of this. But now recently they have dropped another feature called Auto Designer. So that's what I'm trying to cover in this video. Auto Designer is a very new feature of this, specifically 2.0. What it does for you is it creates design mockups for you based on the screenshots that you provided. So let me just log into UIZard, and once you log in, you will see a section that looks like this, and it is not a paid tool per se, but you will need to pay for certain features of it. So if you come here and you open a new project, and after opening a new project you try to use Auto Designer, then what you'll have to do is go to magic section, click on screenshot scanner, select desktop as the screen design that you're trying to do, and just upload the image of the inspiration that you're taking. So what it will try to do now is it will try to create it as a design mockup that is editable for you. So if you've ever used Figma, this is simply just creating kind of a Figma file. So all the components and the individual sections will be editable, and the overall page will be editable. That's it. Rather than having an image for you, you can also export it as an image, but it's better if you want to make manual changes directly. Say if you want to change the color of the button, if you want the text to be a different font style, so you can do all of those changes in the design mockup itself. So this is what it has come up with. It looks almost similar uh, to the original, almost the same text, almost everything is same. Just the dashboard could have been better. The boxes for it is missing, text is going out, but I'd say even 90% or 95% it is correct. So this is how you get a mockup. You can directly change the text here if you want. You can change the color of the button to be green or anything that you want. So you can make all the changes and save it as a file, Figma file. You can export it to Figma. So this is what Auto Designer actually allows you. So you don't need to take a subscription for this. Auto Designer 2.0 is paid, but 1.5 is free in UI's art right now. So my suggestion will be to stick to that since it is already doing pretty much that you need. You can export this as a file itself. There's another feature which is a paid feature of this. You need pro subscription for it. But if you want your mockup to be directly transferred as a React or a CSS file, you can get that as well. This is what UI's art is. It is an alternative if you don't want to use image generation tools. If you want more actual manual control on the design, what you're trying to create, it's better to take your inspiration and then make changes in this tool itself. And lastly, if you don't want to use UI's art, if you want to stick to image generation tools, then there is another tool called Ideogram. It is as good as ChatGPT, though it is not based on transformer models, and it can still hallucinate once in a while, but it is also good enough, and it is free to use. So I'll go to Ideogram. If you don't want to pay for it, you can use Ideogram AI as well. It also does the job if you want to make any of the changes in the image or the design that you're bringing over. So that is also one option. So this is the phase two overall, how you can do rapid UI design, UX design, user flow design, whatever you want to do. So this is how you go over it. Coming to phase three. Phase three is the toughest part. So this is where you translate your design to your front end code. And this is where you need to be very, very careful, because honestly, it is the toughest part of this whole development process. Whenever you're trying to build your MVP, you'll have a good inspiration, you'll ace your UI, you'll be happy with it, how you're looking at it. But without a front end designer in the first go, it is very difficult to get what you're envisioning directly into code. Mostly people use React for building it. They use CSS along with it and Tailwind. So translating that into code is the toughest part. It still is the toughest part in 2025, and it is really perfect. You're not getting it correct almost 90% of the time in the first draft. Although coding models have become better, there are 3.5 Sonnet thinking model that is also available right now. It does the job in the first go pretty well. You can design games with it, you can do almost every kind of development that you want with it. But still, for the LLM model, it is very difficult to understand the image what you're trying to build and then replicate it exactly, because it assumes some things in between: the color of your design, the font style of your design. It is not trained specifically. There are no foundational models that are trained specifically to build UI. So it's still a very, very tough part, but it is an iterative process, like I told for UI as well. You can build a first draft till it will be almost 7 to 80% near to what you're trying to build, and you need to have a preliminary design that closely aligns with the vision. and then later on you can keep refining it. It is easy to refine it later on than to get it perfect in the first go. So this is the overall thing that I wanted to cover in this phase 3 part, that continuously refining is very important in this. And AI is good at refining, but it is not, maybe might not be able to make you satisfied with your first design. So anyways, let's get our design that we have and let's give it to Lovable AI. So I'll just copy our image and save it to my local, and then I'll go to Lovable and upload it there. You can also use bold.diy if you want to use bold.diy. That is an open source development project on Bold that developers have built. There is also bold.new. Bold.new is by StackBlitz. StackBlitz provides that. If you want to use bold.diy, you will need to go and clone this repository and then run it. It provides you option to choose coding models of your own. You can bring over 3.7 Sonnet with its API key. You can use Llama 4 if you don't want to pay for any of the models. You can bring models from Open Router. All that is available, but to not go into very technical details of it, if you just want to use a free tier starting platform that helps you translate a UI to front end, go ahead with these. So there is Lovable, there is bold.new, there is also some other tools that I want to show you. Like I already told, Lovable is there, Bold is there. There is also builder.io, there is 21st.dev, and then there is also Magic UI. These three are not specifically for helping you build your design per se. They are actually like UI libraries where you can find good components to bring to your design. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So builder.io is like a visual editor for Figma specific design. So say you have some Figma design that you want to bring over in code. So builder.io plugin, AI plugin of theirs, helps translate that. So that is already available in Lovable, and how you can do that, I'll show you. Just go to Lovable and click on import, and it already shows here builder.io Figma plugin. So if you open it here, you can come to builder.io's AI powered plugin that they have recently launched. And what it does is it translates your Figma design into code. So if, for example, you already had a Figma design created by some designer, and then you want it to be translated, or if you started out with some Figma design that you want to translate, then you can directly use builder.io. There is no transparency as to what coding model they use, but it seems to do the job well, and it can convert Figma to code for React, for HTML, for Angular. These are the common ones. So I'll also show you how to do that. So just let me open my Figma and I'll show you how it works mainly. So I'm in Figma right now, and like you can see, this is a sample landing page that we were creating for our client. And all you need to do is come to Figma. You can already see the components built out separately, how they exist here and everything else. So you just need to select your overall page and then right click on it. And then here in plugins, you can see builder.io. If you've not edited yet, you will need to go to manage plugins and then select builder.io here. So you'll type out builder.io and then you'll select it, and then you'll be able to see it. So just going back here, going to plugins, selecting builder.io. It has a free trial, so you can only use it for limited number of times for free. So if you come here, then you will click on design with AI, or you can directly click on export. Right now, it is showing large selection detected, quality degrades for selections, and so and so, but you can ignore that directly. So just let me select the overall. Yeah. So it is not showing the preview right now because it is deeming the whole design to be bigger to show in this zone. But you can directly click on export design and it will start directly. So this is how you can use builder.io. So this is something that I covered it in the slide here for builder.io. There is also 21st.dev. There is also Magic UI. I'll come to these later on, but we were actually focusing on our design. So let's do that first. I've saved that image that I was showing, and just let me come here and upload that design that we have saved, that we had created earlier. and then I can directly ask Lovable to create it for me. So I'll speak out what I actually want. Create this landing page for me, and I want it to be developed in React using Tailwind and CSS. Do not create any of the backend functionality or any of the other pages. Just focus on landing this perfectly. Keep the details exactly similar to the image. Use the same font, same style. Try to exactly replicate this design. So I'll just click on send, and let's see how it gives us the output of the front end that it has built. Okay, so this is what it has come up with. You can see almost very similar. It has not created any of the features pages, pricing pages, FAQ, anything, because we asked it not to. But if you want to go ahead and give the AI some liberty of creating those for you, you can just type that out, or say that create the features, pricing, FAQ, and call to action pages for me, and they should be able to be navigated to when I click on any of these buttons from the navigation section, and try to replicate the theme exactly as of the landing page. So let's try sending that out. Meanwhile, I'll also mention one more thing, that both bold.new and Lovable, they keep on coming up with new features. Some of them are free to use, but for some of them you'll need to pay. So for example, if you want to use Superbase, which we'll cover later, Lovable has dropped an integration for it. All you need to do is drop in your credentials for your Superbase account, and it will take care of everything else. Same goes for Bolt. Bolt has recently released Stripe payments for adding Stripe to your design. So that is a good part. But all of these platforms, they provide one thing but lack out on the rest. So I'll cover that of cover this part of how you can go about utilizing the best tool that is available that does both these things, honestly. So meanwhile that this is going on, Lovable is doing on it, doing changes. So I'll also show you an edit feature that has recently been released by Lovable. So all you need to do is you can select any of the section from the landing page which you don't like, you need to make changes to. So every time you don't need to prompt everything for everything in the page. It provides you kind of a UI which you can select and make changes directly, rather than asking everything to AI. So once it that is done, that FAQ page and everything is created, I think only then we'll be able to use this edit feature. So let's just wait for a minute. Okay, so I think it is done creating these pages, and let's see what it did with pricing for per se. It looks good. Pricing looks good. I'm still not able to select the starter, professional, and enterprise plan. So that is one thing that needs to be worked upon. FAQ, how well it has handled FAQ, almost pretty similar to what we started with. And this is before we have given it inspiration for the FAQ section, by the way. So we didn't even drop that. If we want to, we can just copy over FAQ section that we're first translating from image generation tools, fine tuning to how we want it to look like, and then we can just drop an image by attaching an image here, and then just ask it to create the FAQ around like that. The CTA page also it has created properly. Let's go to features. Okay, looks good. It's not still clickable, but that is what we wanted it for. We have only used it for front end, so that's good. I think I'm pretty happy with how it has created it. There are sub pages also. So yeah, I think for the UI, pretty good. I'm happy with the result. Now let's cover the other tools that I was mentioning here. So one is 21st.dev and the other one is Magic UI. 21st.dev is NPX UI library where you can find a lot of components, templates, categories. Some are paid, but some other you can use for free. They've also released a new MCP server of their own, by the way, which is outside the scope for this masterclass, but essentially you can use directly 21st.dev's components in cursor IDs, which we'll cover later on if you're aware of them. So they look like this. If you go over to any of these, you'll see very cool animations. You'll see a lot of things that you always wanted to incorporate in your website design. So it provides you the code snippet to do that exactly. Just come to that component. So if, for example, you like 404 page not found, and you want that to be in your website, all you need to do is copy that prompt specifically for, if you want it for lovable or if you want it for bold, you can just do that. Just copy a prompt and it gives you an option of copying it. You can select from V0 by Vercel, bold, side brew, lovable, all these options. Just copy a prompt and then ask it to add this. I'm just directly pasting it here, and then we'll wait for a minute, and then we'll have another page which looks like this. That 404 looks like you're lost. Hopefully it should work in the first go. It usually does because the prompts are very well designed, and you can directly copy them. So this is 21st.dev. Similarly, you can go to Magic UI. Magic UI is almost similar, but is also UI library, which you can see, but it is more focused on giving you exactly the templates and the components. It doesn't necessarily focus on providing the libraries for it, and it doesn't also have an MCP server. So if you want to integrate it directly into your coding IDs, be it Cursor, Windsurf, or VS Code client, whatever you're using, you cannot directly use them there. So you'll have to come to their website and then copy them. So that is one thing, but it is equally as good. And if you want to use any of the templates that they have, you can pay for them. And there are also free tiers of some of the components that they provide. For example, if you want to have shiny buttons, you see some rainbow animation that is going on in the background, some animated buttons if you want to use. So all those are here. This calendar component that you want to use, I'll show you some examples of like a vertical hovering animation of cards if you want to use. So you can just come over, copy this whole code and drop them into maybe lovable or bold, wherever you want to use it. If you're just focusing on the component library component part of it, using that as a code in your front end. But I'll still advise not going with these two first, and this is why I covered lovable and bold first, because these do sometimes tend to mess up your code. The structure that lovable and bold are built on, they don't incorporate these very well. So it's better if you do these changes of adding components and libraries which you're still not aware of in your coding ID. So you can ask what changes were made, or you can revert them, because that is a very important feature that you'll come to realize later on. So seems like it has done that. It has created a not found page. So if we go to pages, okay, we don't see it in the page. We do see it. Use now add to replace in this and projects in this. Okay, and where do I see this? Let me ask it. Where do I see it? Have you added button? Have you added a page for it? So I think it has created. It has just not listed it in our main app. We'll see it. Hopefully it checks that and corrects that. If you like to see container, you click on the respective links. Okay, I am talking about the not found page. I think that is happening because we only have a certain pages, sub pages that we can navigate to. Once we publish this website and then go to this published website, or then try to navigate to any pages which don't exist, then we should be able to see this text. So going to the published app, if I try to go to the pricing app, this is what it shows. And if I say sample page, let's see what it shows us. This is it. It is showing us the page. So working correctly. So yeah, this is it. So this was the UI to code tools part. Now we'll go to the phase 4. So the phase 4 actually includes planning and structure. It is all about creating the functionality of your whole product. So right now, the front end that you've created, you're not really aware of it, how lovable works or how bold works, what kind of code was used, what tech stack was used, what kind of folder structure were used. So there is a set folder structure in productionized environments that is used for building out your app. So essentially, lovable and bold try to use that, but you need to be aware of it, what tech stack is being used for developing. For example, uses White rather than Node.js. So if you're not aware of it, and then you go to say some other app that is trying to use Node.js, and Lovable did not write your code in Node.js, then it will be a problem for you. So that is why you need to have proper documentation of what you're trying to create. So now a question may arise for you that why did you not cover the documentation in the first go? That is because till now we were only planning on bringing your idea that you have of how you're envisioning it to look like, only from a visual standpoint of view, to actual functionality. So that is why we've not focused on it yet. But anything is not missed, and integrating this planning and structure right now is the perfect time, because uh, it is more important for you to have proper detailed structure, as in documentation, a PRD, everything else, and that will help you going forward when you actually build your code in coding IDEs. So we'll cover that later on. But now it is the time for defining what you want in your app with the features that you have designed, what all you can try to cover it in, what all you can try to cover in them, and how you want your user flow to be. So if a user wants to navigate through your app, how their journey can look like, what all you want to cover in your MVP and can be added later on. So defining that is also important. So the whole structure is built around that. I'll teach you how to build an MVP PRD is nothing but product requirement document. So it just defines the core features and target users, any key metrics for your MVPs if you wanna use them. Tech stack, what tech stack are you going to use for your backend development, for your front end, what have you used, and detailed documentation architecture wise, whether you will be developing your own APIs, how you're going to handle those if you're bringing them from somewhere else, how are you onboarding users, are you signing them up, if you're signing them up, are you using tokens, what are you using actually, integration for payments, integration for authentication, integration for database, how are you handling all of that, and that is everything that you need to take care of. So for doing that, these are the two tools that you can use, and these are pretty good in my opinion. I use them personally. First is Code Guide, and the second one is Tempo. Documentation wise, Code Guide actually helps you to create all of these documents that you can go ahead and use them and feed to your coding IDEs, or maybe any of the softwares that you want to use. It gives a good structure to what you're trying to build, helps AI understand what you're actually trying to build, what's the scope of it, so it reduces hallucinations. And that is the essentially the reason for building Code Guide. So shout out to the creator of Code Guide. I'll add their name here in the video. And the second one is the tempo.dev. It is good for integrations. So tempo.dev actually lets you integrate both Stripe and Polar for payments. It also lets you integrate, I think it also lets you choose between Wide and Next.js for your front end. And it also allows you to choose between this and Clerk for authentication. So I'll show that later on what I mean with it. And you can also go through the slides. I'll add link to these slides. But first, let's go to Code Guide, and I'll show you what Code Guide actually is. So all you need to do is go to codeguide.dev. So why Code Guide? You can just come here and understand what it essentially does. It creates PRDs, frontline guidelines, backend guidelines. It creates all these documents: PRDs, front-end guidelines, back-end structure, app flow document, tech stack document, system prompt, file structure documentation. So I'll show you how these are used later on, but you do need them both for feeding back to the AI that you're going to use for vibe coding, and then also maybe to give to your developers in future if you have no idea how you designed it, on how you were initially building it, so they get an idea of how you're envisioning it, and what is the current structure that has been followed till now. So this is how it works. You just need to click on get started. It is a paid tool, I'm not denying that, I'm just making that you aware of that right now. So you need to sign up with it, and then you'll need to log back in. If you have an account, so just let me sign back in, and I'll show you how it works. So they have a monthly plan and a yearly plan. I'll suggest go with a monthly plan for starters. Don't overpay for anything that you're not going to use again and again. And again, you can do this using Gemini as well, for free. I'll show you that as well, how you can do it. But essentially what you do is you go to a new project. I'll come back here and show you the dashboard of once you've used this tool and paid for this tool, how it looks. So this is how the dashboard looks, my recent projects, what I was creating and everything else. All you need to do is go to a new project, select from starter kits. If you already have a, a clear idea of what tech stack that you want to use, so they give you an idea for it as well, that if you want to use a starter pro plan, starter lite, only Next.js and Firebase. So this is how they set it up for you. So if you already know that you use Slug for authentication, for example, Superbase for database, CSS, TypeScript, Next.js, and ShadeCN for building out your UI, they give you that as well. And all you need to do is then you need to type out that I want to build a SaaS web app that lets user select any of the services that I offer. Then click on refine, so it'll refine it a little bit. So they have trained their own agent to do that over and over, so it aces that part for you, the prompt writing. So just let it handle it. Adds the functionality for tech stack, core features. You can obviously add the core features if you feel anything is missing. The app structure, AI integration, and if you don't want to use AI, then you can just directly skip that part. Then you can go to next step. What it will do for you is it will ask you some questions about what essentially you're trying to build, so it has a better idea of what coding tools you're going to use. So in our case, we're using Lovable and Cursor later on in the video, but we have used Lovable. So I'm selecting that. Just click on the next step. You can also select AI models, by the way. So if you have API key for Claude, we can select that. So these are some of the questions that you need to fill out. For example, can you provide more details about your target audience? Do you have any established branding guidelines such as color themes, fonts? You can mention all of these things. So once you have mentioned everything else, what it will do for you is it'll take answers. So I'm just filling them with AI answer. So it has placeholder values for it. But I'll show you what happens later on, because I don't want to use credits of mine for this. So just showing you how it works. You can also skip these questions if you feel these are unnecessary. So I'll skip out the remaining questions. So this is the input summary that we're going to send to it. Everything else, just check everything. If there's anything that you need to change, just click on edit here. That if you want edit your responses or add additional tools, any of this. So it will generate an outline for you before going on and creating the documents for you. So it will first generate an outline, and I'll show you how that looks. But meanwhile, just also let me tell you that if you feel that you are on a very tight budget, you don't want to pay for these tools, because essentially what all they do is make your way easier into having proper documentation structure. But if you don't have $20, $30 to spare for all of this, you can just use any of the thinking models. Go ahead and use them to create your PRDs, your Airflow documentation, everything else. I'll show that later on once this part is done. So this is the input summary, the project structure, and these are all the documents that is going to create PRDs, Airflow, tech stack. So just let me copy their names first. I'll tell you why I'm doing all this. So I'll go ahead and click on create docs, and if I just click on create all, it will just go ahead and do that for me. And just let me show you how those look once those are created. So I created an agent marketplace earlier, and okay, just let me show for a SaaS web app maybe. So these are all the documentation that it gave me. This is the PRD, uh, this is the Airflow document, this is the tech stack document, front end, how front end will look, You can see all that there. The styling and theming, what methodology needs to follow, what are the primary colors, secondary colors, background, everything, component structure. It keeps everything, and while also trying to ensure that performance optimization is done by AI. So what all it needs to cover while building out the front end, it includes code splitting, lazy loading, some of the technical jargon that you don't need to be very aware of. AI coders, coding LLMs will take care of that. Of writing unit tests, integration tests. So these are very important things, but you might not be aware of them. So that is why you actually create documentation of what all needs to be done by creating these MVPs. So similarly, you'll also see backend structure document and app flow chart. An app flow chart is essentially a code, but you can also see them in design of how they have come up with the flow. So user authentication, retailer flow, admin flow, all of these. User will submit an PDF, how that will take on uh, for subscription, and how Stripe payment will work, email notification will be sent. So all of that nitty gritty details, if you don't want to go into them. And then there are some rules, project rules documentation is also there. So all of these will be fed later on to AI IDs. And if you don't want to create these documents by a paid tool like I showed you using code guide, you can just go over to aistudio.google.com and use any of the thinking models. Right now 2.5 Pro is the best thinking model. So just select that, and then just tell it to create these docs for me. My idea is about creating SaaS which sells AI services to users, and users can come and select any of the services they wish to avail. So just removing this delete that accidentally got copied from there. You can also maybe increase the temperature for if you want more creative outputs, or just set it lower if you want it to just be standard. So right now we're decreasing the temperature. Temperature essentially means the creativity of the output. So if you don't want it to think out of the box, just follow the standard procedure of how these are usually created for an idea. And then you can decrease the temperature also, and then just run it. It'll take some time. Thinking models usually think per se about what they're actually going to reply us with. So if you see it taking time, that is completely normal. Just let it run for maybe 20 to 30 seconds, and then you'll have each of the documents that you want, and you can just use that if you don't want to use code guide. So that is also a good option. They're actually equally as good. I won't even say a little lesser in terms of quality. They're equally as good, because again we don't know what kind of LLM code guide they're using under the hood. So like you can see, it is creating a good document for Airflow. It is already created for, I think it is a this is a PRD. Yes, it is a PRD. So it will create all of these. You can just copy them and paste them as separate files. Obviously you'll need to save them as separate files, but this is essentially the documentation part for it. Let me go back to our slides. So documentation is done. We have each of the PRDs, the files, whatever documentation that we wanted to create, we already have it. Now the next step is adding integrations. So for that we'll use Tempo. Why we are using Tempo is for development of the backend side, how we're actually going to incorporate a database and payments, because it is very important. If you're creating SaaS, you also need a payment platform. Very popular right now in the market, in international market, is Stripe. If you want to take payments through Stripe, how do you integrate that? And if you want to store user data, so for example, if someone has signed in to your app and you want to store that signed in status of them, and then you want to log them out when they click on log out, or if you want to keep any of the details of the user, for example, which page that they clicked on, where they went, which tools from your SaaS they have subscribed to, it can be anything. If you want to store any of the details, you want to have a database, and a database on cloud is equally important as having your backend build, your front end build, how it looks and how it runs in the background. Along with that, integration is very important. So database makes a very core functionality of your product. So for that, mostly people these days use Superbase. Superbase provides you all the functionalities that you would need to store authentication as well. And if you wanna store any data, if you wanna store authorizations, it does that for you. It uses JWT, so it is perfectly suited for MVPs. Another options that have come up recently are, I don't know if I've covered them here, but I'll show you. So Clerk is a platform that allows you for handling user management. If you just wanna have a simple sign in button that someone can click on, like Clerk have right here, it is just an example of their product. What they essentially allow you is have a sign in page or a sign in widget that allows user to sign in your app. So just like how this looks, it'll look exactly same for your SaaS app. So you can just use Clerk for this. And another is Convex. I think, just let me get the name right for it. Go to Tempo, you'd see all of the integrations directly on Tempo. So Tempo, I think, if it's not tempo.dev, then it is tempo.new, I think. They're backed by Y Combinator, so pretty famous for what all they do. So they do handle everything from scratch, of acting like a coding IDE for creating your apps end to end and visualizing your code, helping you maintain your code, deploying your code. They help with all of that. But that is not the core functionality that people use Tempo for. What they actually use it for is including integrations in your product. So I'll give you an idea first of how they actually work. So if you click on get started, in my case, I'll log back in. But if you create a user in Tempo and then you sign back in, so once you have logged back in, you'll have two options whether you wanna connect your GitHub repository or generate an app from scratch. Just select generate an app. You can here select some frameworks, and these are all the options that are available to you. So if you use Vite or Next.js, you can use either of the two. If your app is a very basic app, you're not building anything that will involve a lot of development, then I'll suggest go with Vite. It is very easy. If you've also used Lovable, then Lovable built your framework on Vite. It doesn't use Next.js as of now. And for authentication in database, like I was telling, it provides you an option of integrating Superbase, or you can also use Clerk and a combination of Convex. And for setting up the payments, it provides you option of using Stripe, which is the most common one. So these are all the options that are available to you. I'll suggest, if you're going ahead, then use Superbase and Stripe with Vite. But if you're building a better, more complex one app, but if you're building little bit more complex app, then go ahead the Next.js. So for now, I'll select Python because we're only building a simple SaaS app. So I'll go ahead and click on setup integrations. Now you need to click on connect Superbase and then click on connect on Stripe. So if I click on connect Superbase, it will redirect me to Superbase. I'll have to give some accesses of authorizing Tempo to use my Superbase account. Credentials, actually, not even account, I'll say. And then I'll have to select different organization because these are my other projects. Go ahead, go to superbase.com and click on a new project, click on start your project, click on new project. Under this organization, it is your account's name only. I'll create a temp project. I'll have to set up a password for it. So yes, the project is created with temp project as name. Come here and refresh this. So it will show here on the temp project being created. I'll just click on this. Superbase will get connected automatically. All I need to do is wait for it. I think it is still being created as a project, so it is taking some time. But once that is done, all we need to do is just drop in our API keys there. So click on data API, and here you have your project APIs and your project URL. So these are the only two things that Tempo will be asking you. Perfect. So let's just click on connect. Now all it needs is my Stripe publishable key, Stripe secret key, and everything else. I'll give it all of that. Just let me go to my Stripe account first. Let me go to Stripe and log in. I will have to go to developer for this and take API keys from there. So if you get stuck anywhere, then no need to worry. There is a guide that you can click directly on Tempo, how to go about doing all of that. So just come here and it'll show you how to do all. Searching developer, go to API keys, and you can find your publishable and secret key. You just need to drop them here. This is the secret key. Stripe webhook secret. So just go to developer section, and under developer section you'll find the webhook also. So go to webhooks, create a new webhook. If in case you don't see anything created here in your case, you'll have to create a webhook and then click on add destination. I'll show you how to do it. Just select your accounts, select all events, and then click on continue, click on webhook endpoint. Then you need to drop in the webhook that Tempo gives you. So just drop in this URL here. Name the webhook endpoint to be anything that you like. So it can be temp webhook in my case. Not adding any description right now, but you can if you want to for your own use case. Then you'll have to copy this signing secret that you see here. So just copy that signing secret, and that you have selected all fields in the Stripe webhook that you created just now. We just did that, so we're good there. And then you'll also need to add a product. If you have no Stripe plan set up for the project, you'll have to do that. So in my case, I have set one product. If you don't have any, then go to products, click on all products that you see. What are the product catalogs that you have? If you don't have any, then click on create a product here, and then create any product, name it anything, set a stand pricing model, and then just click on save product. So you'll have one, and then all you need to do is click on refresh here. Also keep in mind that this is for test data, so you won't be getting any live payments using it. So to do that, you'll have to set up your live account. But because we are just building an MVP, we are using demo data to do all of this. So now it is picking up the project that I set up recently. I just put a free tier as well along with the premium plan. So it can take 1 or 2 minutes sometimes for Tempo to get refreshed. So integrations are set up. Then you can see all the framework and the payment and authentication is already there. So create me a structure for my SaaS app. Keep the front end and back end set. And if you want to give it the same image that we gave to Lovable, you can do that as well. But tell you if I did not do that in the first go, I'll tell you. So just let me attach it and then let it run, and I'll talk meanwhile it gets built. Okay, so let's let it run for a while. So similarly, Tempo also creates PRDs and some kind of tech stack document that it uses to generate your app. So it is almost similar to Code Guide for generating your documentation, but it is still not primarily for that. So the quality of the documentation that you will get is not very of very high quality. But still it gets your job done. It creates an application structure, the user flow for you, and it tries to follow that. So the good thing for us is it is trying to follow a structure, but what we'll eventually do is we'll bring this code that it has generated, Tempo, along with front-end code that we got from Lovable or Code, and then we'll integrate them together in an IDE. So the use of Tempo here is we're setting up the payment system, we're setting up the authentication, we're setting up our database, we're using White or whatever that we decided on in the Code Guide documentation. So we're using all of that here. And once we get a proper structure set up, we'll just directly import that repository that we're going to host on Git, and then we'll make changes there. So let's see how Tempo is working. It has come up with a design. Like you can see, it is not very good at landing the UI like how we wanted it to. So that is why we were using Lovable. So it's fine for now. We will bring the code that we had got for the front end from Lovable, and we're just using it for the integration part here. So what all it has done, it has set up the Superbase project components. It is also setting up Stripe for us, I guess, and this is the application structure that it has come up with. So if you also wanted to generate a user flow, it will do that if you click on generate here, but we don't need that, so I'm skipping that part. So let's give it 2 or 3 minutes meanwhile it runs. So till then, what we can do is we can go back to our front end code and then publish it and then attach it to our Git repository. If you're not aware of Git, you will need to create a Git account. It's very easy. Just go to GitHub. GitHub is the most common platform that people use it for maintaining your Git. Git is nothing but, in simpler terms, it is where you host all your code. So if you need to make any changes, you don't need to work on all of the code together. You can just push your changes, whatever small changes that you have in your code, and maintain a working functional version of it at all times. So that is all that there it is to Git. But you do need to connect your GitHub account to your Lovable account. So if you've not done that, you will need to do that. So if I click on publish here, it is already published. Otherwise, you can click on publish and do that. You will need to click on GitHub sync, so GitHub will get to your Lovable account. Just click on install and authorize. I'll put my password here. So that is done. Let's transfer this project to us creating a, it'll create a repository. So if you want to see it, just click on view on GitHub and it'll open, and you'll be able to see all your front end code posted directly by Lovable. And if you want to run it on your local system, how do you do that? Lovable gives you all the steps. What tech stack has it used to develop your project? It has used Vite, TypeScript, React, Shadesy, and Tailwind. So we will also use Vite in our Tempo labs. So that is why we were using that framework. So when we align them together, it does not break. So if we had used Next.js, that would have been a problem now. So these are small things that you need to be aware of. For example, if you had built your code in bold.new, it would create in Next.js. So then you will have to select Next.js in Tempo labs. So these are just small pieces of info that I'm sharing. So now what we'll do is we either can copy this code as a zip file and import it in our VS Code or Cursor, whatever IDEs we are going to use, or you can just clone that repository directly there. But I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, so I'm not giving you any code commands to run. All you can do is you can just come here, click on code, and then click on download zip. So you'll have a zip file that you can just directly import there. And meanwhile, let's see how Tempo is working. So the good thing about Tempo is you can see all of your pages, whatever pages that it has developed right here. So if you see, it was developing our pages for testimonials, for features, for pricing, and the ones that it has completed, you would have been able to see here. So these two we can navigate and see right now, but these two are being developed. So right now what I've asked it is the Stripe integration done? And it has replied with yes, the Stripe integration is complete in your project. Here is what is already set up. Okay, so all of that is done. Cool. Perfect. So now what we can do is we can just directly import this. If we want the code, we can see the code directory, subdirectory here, I think somewhere. Yes. So this is the whole code directory, and we just need copy structure. So the correct way to do is you just create a new repository, call it Tempo Labs Code. I'm just hosting it publicly for now, but if it is a personal project, just select private there. And it is now connected to Tempo Labs Code repository. I wanna publish everything there. It is on main branch. So let's check if we have a main branch and whether the code is there or not. Tempo Labs. Perfect. So we have all the code here directly. Cool. So now we can close Tempo. That's it. That's all the use that we had for Tempo. Let's close Tempo, and we have our Lovable code as well. and we also have our Tempo Labs code. Sometimes Lovable makes random names, so you need to be aware of how the repository has been named. So if you are unsure of it, just click here directly in your Lovable project, and it will take you there. So it has named it front end visual replica. That's fine by me. I don't care. So we are done with our documentation and integrations, and we have set up our code base. We have set up our front end code. We have our integration set up. But right now, the situation is that we have our front end code ready, and we have another code which has a front end that we don't need, but integration set up there for our database and for our payments. And we want to merge these together. So the reason that we decided on our framework first and the documentation that we're going to use is because that we actually decided on the tech stack that we have finalized for this project. And that is why we used Lovable, because we were sure that we were going to use white, and we selected white in Tempo as well for that reason. So now it is comparatively easier to integrate all that, and we wouldn't have to refactor a lot of code. So this is covered. We have our documentation, our PRDs, our user flows, everything is there, and we have just a combined ready to be combined code that we're going to now feed to IDEs. So now we're coming to phase 5. It covers Git, it covers IDEs. What are IDEs? So these are just integrated development environments. Nothing fancy about them. This is where your code resides, where you actually used to build your code before this whole wave of AI came up. So this is where your developers will actually make changes. But AI IDEs are just integrated development environments where you can use AI agents to refactor your code. They have blown up a lot in the last year, honestly. Cursor is like the most popular AI IDE in the market right now, and it is very good. So what it essentially does is it uses AI agents, and by AI agents I mean that it goes through your own code base, understands your structure, how everything is set up, what is linked to what, and then if you give it any changes that you need to make, any directions about what needs to be done, then it understands that in human language. You don't need to be very technically savvy with it. You just talk to it directly about what you're trying to do, and it will understand that and then make changes in your code as a developer. So these are very helpful tools. One is Cursor, one is Windsurf. These are the two tools I'll suggest, honestly, going forward if you're not from a technical domain. So export everything from Lovable to Tempo that we have generated now, and I'll tell you how to use them. So coming to AI IDs, they are your Swiss knife. You can use them for almost all the software development that needs to be done now. You already have uh, all the code that you will need, and you just need to refactor it. We will use either Cursor or Windsurf. I use Cursor personally. It is a paid tool. Windsurf is also paid, by the way. But if you're paying for these tools, it is actually, I'd honestly say worth paying them for, because they actually provide you a lot of benefits in your development stages. So if something would take usually a week or two, even a month, Cursor can do it within a week if you know how to use it, honestly. And like the benefits are already listed. I'll not read them out, but you can cover up a lot of development stages if you have proper planning on how to use them. If you just go in blindly about using this AI tools that have come up, then you'll get stuck very easily. You'll face a lot of hallucinations. Your code will break. But the whole idea is, if you have a structure that you're defining and letting these tools know, both Cursor and both Windsurf, then you can get a lot out of them without any of code issues or without any of the thing breaking. I'll cover that as well. Cursor is a little bit more pricier. On the pricier side, it costs you $20 to $25 per month if you are on the paid tier. And going forward, if you're using their model, which is right now I think Claude 3.7 Max or Gemini 2.5 Pro Max, then you will have to pay for that after a certain point of a time. If you're using them, you get 10 or 15 free usage. Then comes Windsurf. Windsurf also provides a pro plan, but Windsurf is cheaper, and if you only need to pay once, and then you get unlimited code completions with it. Ease of use, I'd say Windsurf is pretty easier to use in the first go, but feature wise, Cursor is very, very heavy. It is very rich in terms of features. So that is why if you're someone who gets used to these tools, then eventually you would want to switch to Cursor. And actually both are good, but if you don't wanna get stuck in a pricing model and you just want to pay once and then use it unlimited, then go ahead with Windsurf. But for my personal use, I use Cursor. So let me open Cursor and tell you how it looks and how you can download it. You just need to go to Google and type out Cursor AI, come to their website, and I'll just let it open. And you can download it for Mac, or if you have a Windows, then download it for Windows. And then you can open it. This is how it usually looks. And now you can either set up a new project or clone your repository. If you are new to it, I would say then you would like to clone repository directly from your GitHub. And if you're doing that, just make sure you are connected to your GitHub account with your Cursor. So it is a very simple process. I'll drop in documentation on how to do that if you've not done that yet. And I'll just come here and select my repository. And essentially what more focused on is how to help you not use any of the code commands that are used to clone these code repositories. So we can just directly download them as zip files and we'll open these directly in Cursor. So I've downloaded for lovable code. Now let me do it for tempo code. So I'm coming here at tempo code, downloading the zip file for it as well, and give it some seconds to download. I'll go to my downloads folder. We have that, and you can see the front end code directly here. And similarly, Tempo Labs code should also be downloaded. Okay, yeah, we have that as well now. Going to the folder, extracting it. Yes, we have that as well. So just let me rename these as lovable code, and let me rename this as tempo code. And I'll copy both of these, create a new folder at my desktop called SaaS new, and I'll copy both these folders here, and I'll open this directly in my Cursor. So I'm doing all of this so you can skip, writing any code commands that you would usually have to clone these repositories. So I'm just going to my new folder. It has the lovable code that we had generated, and it also has the tempo code. So now all I'm going to do is ask it to refactor my code, what all the changes that I want to make. And you might not see it in the first go, so you will have to do command I or control I for Windows, and then this will pop up. So this is for agent and ask in manual. So in manual mode, if you wanna make any edits to specific files, that is how you do it. In manual, you ask the AI here, and you select the AI model, coding model that you want to use for make any changes in your code. So some of these are listed here. Some are popular ones. Some are not free but really good in terms of coding capabilities. So if you see 4040 mini Claude 3.5 Sonnet, these are from later months of 2024. These models came out then, but really good in terms of quality still. But there are a lot of new models that have popped up specifically for coding. So 3.7 Sonnet is a good one. 2.5 Pro is a good one. It is by Google Gemini model. It is a really good one. Claude is by Anthropic. And you don't need to go to these platforms by Google or Anthropic and pay for any of the API keys. You can just come directly here and select them, and they're good to go. All you need to do is just select those. The max ones that you see, these are a little bit better than the 3.7 Sonnet model per se. So the max model will perform better, but it is still going to charge you $0.05 per request per tool use. There is thinking toggle now that you can select if you want to select. So what it does is it basically helps the AI have a thinking kind of capability before it tries to make any of the changes. It first tries to understand what you're actually asking it to do, And then if it needs to go through any of the code files before making any changes, it tries to map out a plan of what it will now do before making any changes. So that is why you should maybe use thinking also. Oven, I would not suggest going with Oven, because Oven is not specifically for coding. If you want it to map out the process of development, then go ahead and use Oven. But usually what people use is 3.5 Sonnet and 2.5 Pro Experimental, which are very very new models. And in this mode menu, I'll say keep the agent mode selected always, because agent tries to divide your tasks into subtasks, and then it tries to make changes in multiple files at one go, rather than sticking to one file and tries to make the changes here. So that is mostly it that you need to know about these AI IDs. That is says this is your playground. Everything that you need to do, you can just directly do here. And it's better to know a little bit of prompt engineering also. By prompt engineering, I mean you should know how to ask, give directions to these AI models of how to go about and make changes in your code. So if you just ask it to do something simply, it might get confused, or it can assume some things that you did not want it to do and make changes that you did not want it to make. So it's better that you clarify everything in a directed structure. So for example, I'll just give you an example here, that if you don't want it to make any changes, but you want to understand what actually it did in the previous run, so you would need to tell it specifically that, hey, don't make any changes in my code right now. Just reply to me about what are you planning on, what are you going to do. So a little bit of details about how you actually talk to these AI agents, and you'll understand what I mean. But so just let me first start off by asking the AI agent to understand this whole structure. So I'll type it out here by speaking. I have two directories called Lovable Code and Tempo Code. Lovable Code directory contains the front end code for my product that I'm going to build, and the Tempo Code contains the structure of how I'm using Superbase and Stripe for payments and authentication and as a database. So I want to keep all the UI that is present in the Lovable Code directory, and I want to use the integration code and the backend code, whatever there is, from the Tempo code folder. So try to utilize both these files. Do not write any of your code. Just try to create a new folder, whatever you want to name it, and then leverage both these folders to come up with a working functional product that I can run and view. So do that. And also what I want is, I want you to focus on the tech stack that is used. It is white, and we have also used Tailwind, CSS, and if you find anything that is used in both these folders, both these code snippets, so integrate that accordingly as well. So now I'll see all this typed out here. I'll just select my model to be 2.5 Pro. Let me check if I've selected thinking. Yes. Now I'll just ask it to do all of this. So what it does is it tries to plan its next moves. So it thought for 4 seconds. You can see the thought process that it has followed. The user wants me to do this. It wants me to do code base merge for front end and the back end logic. Here's a plan that I'm going to follow. Okay, I understand you want to merge the front end. This first I need to understand the structure listed. It seems I couldn't find the directory name Lovable Code. Could you please confirm? Okay, so sometimes that happens. It is named as Lovable Code, and other one is Tempo Code. So it is now planning everything, doing its task. Let it run for a while. It'll think for the next move that it needs to make. So it is creating a merged app directory, and it is going to copy a lot of files from Lovable and both from merged app, from Tempo Code. So it is doing that. Once it is done with it, we can ask it to run the code and show us what it has done. So ideally what should happen now is the front end that we built in Lovable will have it, and along with that we'll also have a sign-in page, a database using Superbase, and also a Stripe payments, so we can take payments. And if there is anything missing that we see, which usually happens, by the way, that it is not able to land everything in one go, so we can just ask the coding IDE to go back to the tempo code and refer to that how that was done there, and just try to use that in our code. So once we have everything set up from both the Lovable and the tempo integrations, we can just directly remove those two folders and have a new structure there. If I open the merged app structure, you would see it has followed the same structure of how usually you go about creating your structures. So all that is exactly the same. How Lovable would have done it, how Tempo would have done it. So that is a good thing. So let's see how much time it takes. I'll give it 1 or 2 minutes, so it should get done by that. Okay, so our running version is ready now. We have an MVP that we are able to run locally, and we see the SaaS page that we set out to build. We have the features section, the pricing section, FAQ, call to action. We have these sub pages, but we still are not seeing the integration visibility here. So if I'm clicking on get started, it is not redirecting me to my Stripe page. And also, if I'm trying to sign in as a user, there's no sign up button right now. Even though we have our Superbase and a Stripe setup, it is just not visible in the front end. So we'll do that. But before going to that section, it is important that we utilize the documentation that we created earlier. So if you remember, we had used Code Guide to create our PRDs, our user app flows, backend structure, our tech stack, all of those documents, and we have still not fed them to our AI IDE cursor in our case. So we'll do that now. And the reason we have not done that till now is because Tempo and Lovable had already followed a set structure. But now going forward, we need to utilize the app flow that we are envisioning right now, and how we want the user journey to be. If there is any functionality that needs to be added on in a future, how we want that to happen. Right now the AI IDE does not have an idea of how we're envisioning the project to be. So those documentation now comes into picture, and that is what we're going to give it now. So going back to Code Guide provided us a functionality to download all these documents. I've already downloaded them for us. So after doing that, it also provides some how-to guides on how to actually add them to your IDEs. It has a video. If you want to do it in Lovable, if you want to do it in Windsurf, if you want to do it on Bolt, it provides you all of that. But I'll cover this on my own. So if you go to your folder where you have downloaded that, and if I extract this now here itself, so I'll see all these documentations ready here. Let me just copy all of these now. And what I'll do is I'll go back to cursor, create a new folder called documentation. Be sure that you do not create it inside any folder. And I'll just open it and drop all the documentation. So are you sure you want to paste all the items here? Yes, I want all of them to be here. And there are some project rules. So what are project rules? Project rules, some of the rules that your IDE, AI IDE specifically, always need to follow when they generate any of the functionality in your code. So what mostly is covered in it is that what kind of tech stack you're following, what version of tech stack you're following, so it does not break. If, for example, I'm on Node.js 14th version, so it sticks to that while developing. It does not try to use any of the earlier versions or the future versions of it. So that is mostly the kind of information that is present in cursor rules. How to stick to Tailwind or any of the UI libraries that you're going to use for your project. So if I go here and type new, I can see new cursor rule. All I need to do is name it. I'll name it like project rule, and I'll come here. All I need to do is I'll just copy all the content that I have from cursor project rules into project rules, and I'll just add it as always, so it is always available to the AI agent of mine, and that is it. Now it is saved, and whenever I need to do any of the development now, all I need to do is I need to just say that refer to at document documentation. I can add the code base directly, folders here. There's a project rule, and also there is, so I can say that refer to. So from now on, whenever I need to make any changes, I'll just say refer to at cursor rules that I've saved in project rules along with the documentation for user flow while making changes. The PRD document as well to understand the vision. So it will keep all of that in mind. It will keep your documentation in it while trying to make any changes, what you're actually trying to build. It will have an idea of that. So the chances of it hallucinating are already reduced by a lot. And after that, there is another tool that I want to use, I want to show you guys, is on a technical side. So it might not be suited for non-techies, but I'll still share for the techies out there. And this is a Taskmaster. So shout out to AI Jason. I'll mention his channel in the group description as well. So shout out to him for mentioning this. A very good tool. So this Git repository is called Taskmaster, and it helps you to basically act as a project manager, which breaks down your development stages into sprints. So, like how usually a development takes place in a corporate environment, in a actual production environment. So it tries to replicate that. So what it actually does is it reduces the hallucinations in your project of chances of code breakage in your project by dividing the development stages into subtasks. So for example, if you have to refactor your landing page and you have to refactor the navigation section of it. So it will break that into subtasks. Like first I'll focus on the button, then I'll focus on the hovering section, then I'll focus on the animation. So it is not working on everything at one go, but landing the first thing, acing that first, and then moving on to the next thing. So that is why it is a very good functionality if you add it to your project. This is the Git repository for it called Taskmaster. So how you basically use it, you need to have subscription to Claude API and Perplexity for it. So it is also available via MCP if you want to use. But right now what we're doing is we're only installing it using NPM. So once we do that, you can have an access to it. How it works is I'll show you that as well. So you need to come to your merged app folder, then drop in these two installation commands and it will get installed. Okay, so it got installed, and the next step that you need to do is you just need to run Taskmaster in it. It will initialize Taskmaster, and it will create a .env file for you to store your credentials of your Claude API and Perplexity API if you're using them. Again, just mentioning, it is a paid API tool usage. So only if you have credentials to go with it, go ahead and use it. But it's still fine if you have documentation that we're creating using Code Guide or using Gemini. If you're just using that, that works as well. But if you're generally trying to invest $100 or $150, if you have a budget of that and you want to land everything perfectly in one go, then I'd suggest take a subscription of Claude API and Perplexity API, recharge your credit to $5. $5 is the minimum that you can do with them. So that's more than enough. You don't need a lot of usage for Taskmaster, honestly. All it does is tries to go to web and search on how development stages should be broken down for a certain kind of that you're in, then comes back to Claude and then gives you a tabular structure of how it's going to go about it, just like you would use Jira or you would define your sprints. All that it does is it takes care of that as an AI project manager. So that's it. Now what we'll have to do is, once that is initialized, it is asking me to give a project name. I'll just enter a temp name. Project description, I'll skip that. Project version, I'll skip. Enter your name, I'll enter mine. Any shell aliases for Taskmaster? No. Do you want to continue with the settings? Yes. So it is creating all of these for us. It has created a .env file where it expects us to have all our functionalities ready. So this is the Superbase credentials that we have. This is the .env.example file that Taskmaster has created. So you need to drop in your Anthropic API key or Perplexity API key, the model that you're going to use. You can copy my settings that I usually go ahead with. What model of Claude do you want to use? What model of Perplexity you should use? I've also added some of the comments. You can pause your screen and take a look at them. How much temperature to set? Everything else is there already. So just copy your Anthropic API key, Perplexity API key, and then just copy all of this info, Control C, and then copy that into your .env file if you already have one. And that is it. That's all that you need to do. Once that is done, you can go ahead and then run this command that I'm going to show you here. Just let me open it again. It is failing because we already have that set up, so no need to worry about that. Now it is asking us to run a command called parse PRD. So what it essentially tries to do is it takes up your PRD document that you have and then tries to create subtasks based on it. So because I already have a PRD set up, I'll just try to use this command using my PRD, and it will need the folder structure for that. So if I write taskmaster parse PRD, and then where is my PRD stored? It is under the documentation folder /project requirements document MD. Then it will work. So now it is generating tasks from my PRD. I've set up my Claude API and my Perplexity API. You'll need to do that if you're planning to use it, obviously. So I'll give it a minute, and it should give me designated tasks on how it is planning. It also generates the importance and of each task, that what is most priority, which is of medium priority, which is of high priority, and which task is dependent on other tasks. So for example, task 1 and 2 are dependent on task 5, then task 5 can't be taken up earlier because task 1 and task 2 need to be completed first. So it tries to does that. So then you can task master list here. This is how it usually looks. It has set up your structure, project structure, how much of the tasks are done in progress, what subtasks are pending, which are blocked, how many are of high priority, which are of medium priority, which are of low priority. So all of that you will be able to see here. This is how you can basically approach your whole development stage in a structured way. So whenever you are done with a certain stage, you can just ask your AI agent to mark that is done, and that will be shown as marked as done here. Coming back to our SaaS, the final stage that is left is we need to show the integrations that we have set up on our page. So let me just speak what I need to make changes about. I have already set up the integrations for Superbase, for signups and sign-ins, and we already have Stripe integration for taking up payments. But when I'm on the pricing page and I click on get started, I'm not taken to Stripe payments. And also I don't see a sign-in section where the user can sign in and sign up, and it uses Superbase. So even though we have integrations, I don't see that on the front end. So can you make sure that we're doing that? Also keep the documentation handy with you wherever you need to use it. So let me just send that, and I think this will be the final stage of development process. Once this is done, we can already mark a lot of things in development stages in Taskmaster. So I'll just mention here. So if you see that setup project repository and environment, we have already done that because we imported our code from Lovable and Tempo. We have implemented Superbase integration. We have a user authentication ready that we imported from Tempo. This develop PDF, upload and validation, implement integration. So these kind of tasks we can use if we're planning to create a SaaS. So if we have some status as already completed because we used Lovable or Tempo, then we can mark them as done already. So you will have a set procedure to follow using Taskmaster. So that is a good way. Obviously if you're using Git to host your code, then you're eventually trying to create unit tests, eventually doing some testing on your own before hosting the whole changes back into your repository. Ideally, you should do that as well. But these kind of things like Taskmaster, they just help you go around in a more structured manner, so you're not doing random changes at all the time. So I think this is done, and let's go back to our SaaS app. We should be able to see all the changes that are made there. Okay, so I think it is done refactoring the code here. I'll come back to our page now. I'll try to sign up. I'll drop in my mail itself. Click on create account. So it says that account created successfully. I should be getting a sign up mail now, and that should be there, right? We get it from Superbase. I click on confirm mail. Perfect. So we are signed in. Superbase is working perfectly. If we go to our table editor now, inside users, we should see an entry for our name now. So my mail ID is under users now, and it is subscribed, and it is storing all the information. If we go to the pricing section, we are also able to navigate through each of these plans. We added a professional plan, and now we am able to see the professional plan being used via the webhook. So that is also working. We just use the tempo integrations for it. So now that we have our SaaS ready, all we need to do is deploy it. So that now that you have built your MVP, the last stage that remains is hosting it and deploying it. So right now, your whole MVP, your product, your app is running on your local server. Now you need to host it on a cloud portal so everyone can use it. And there are multiple tools again available to do that. There is Netlify, there is Vercel, there is Fly.io, there is AWS, Azure. AWS, Azure, GCP are used in a little more complex apps, complex systems, but these are mostly overkill. You don't need to use them if you're building an MVP. Honestly, they are good to scale up. Once you reach a certain number of users, then you need to make sure that your servers are never down. They are fast enough to process requests. So at that stage, it is better to switch to AWS, Azure, and GCP. You don't need to do that right now. My go-to firstly would be either Netlify or Vercel. Vercel is really good for front-end deployment, for serverless functioning, and same goes for Netlify. Netlify is really good, and both of these provide you the functionality of directly importing your code from your Git repository, and then from your Git repository, it automatically picks if there is any changes made to your main branch, and then those changes can directly be reflected in your code. So either go with Netlify or Vercel. It is your choice. I'll do it on Netlify for you right now. Netlify is really upcoming strong competitor for Vercel. Vercel obviously is the established market leader in this for easy deployments. But Netlify also provides you free deployments up to 5 projects. So currently, before doing that, we'll have to host our code that we have prepared in a Git repository. So let us set up a Git repository first to host our code there, and then we'll use Netlify to bring that code into domain if we have anyone, or we'll use a custom domain that Netlify provides. So what I'll do is I'll come back here, go to my github.com, create a new repository. I'll make it a public repository for now. I'll name it new project SaaS. I'll keep it public. I'll create a repository for it, and I'll just copy the link to this repository, and I'll go back to my IDE here, and then what I'll do is I'll drop this code to this repo, and I'll run this. So it will take 1 or 2 minutes, but then ideally what should happen is in your GitHub, under that repository, you should be able to see all your code there. Okay, so I think now we should be able to see the code being hosted here. So if we refresh this page, I think we'll see all the file structure now here. Cool. So we have all the directories now, and now we can just select that repository from here. What was the name that we gave it? New project says. So let me just search it. New project. Perfect. If we need any site name, I'll just name it Dharat for now. And the branch that we need for deployment, and we can just click on deploy Thara. So it will take care of everything else. Make sure if you need to add any environment variables, add that separately. So once that gets done, right now it shows site deployment in progress, but once that deployment is done, you can check the logs meanwhile here in the deploy log section. Then you will be able to see your website with a link. So the initializing of it is done, building is done, deployment is also complete. So now only the cleanup is pending, and once cleanup and post processing is done, we should be able to see a live link for anyone to visit where they can see our app. So it can take 1 or 2 minutes to get completed and the file to be published by Netlify. Give it a minute or two. Once that is done, we can open the production deployment. Okay, so our website is functional now. If we go to the hosted URL that Netlify has given us, web app is loading properly. We can go to any of the pages. The pricing section is working. The CTA call to action button is also working. We have the home page that is also working. And if we try to navigate to any of the random pages, we should also get the 404 error, the component that we actually imported from 21st.dev. So that is working as well. Now you also have the sign in, sign up integration from Superbase and Stripe setup as well. So right now our MVP is done. We have our working product. What we set out to build is ready. We have hosted it, so we can share that as well now. If you need a custom domain, you can paste your custom domain on top of it. You can do that on Vercel as well. You can do that on Netlify. Either of that works. How do you make sure that it does not break in future? So for that, testing is very important. And that is the final phase of today's masterclass, is how do you write testing and fixes. So here the next tool comes. It is named as Test Sprite. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Test Sprite. So just a very classic case that happened very recently. There is an app created by a very famous guy from Stanford who was dropped from Stanford, and he created an app called Interview Coder or something like that, where you could essentially hide your screen sharing from the interview while doing coding rounds in interviews. So even though the guy had made 200K plus in the first month of launching, they currently came under some scrutiny because they had indirectly exposed their environment variables. So they had actually exposed their API keys, which led to a lot of loss of data. So even if you're making sure that your MVP is great, your product is amazing, people are loving it, you still need to make sure that it is functional, it does not break, and it is not leaking any of the sensitive information when a user is signing up. So all that is very important. So for that, we're going to use Test Sprite today. Just let me go to Test Sprite and I'll show you what it is about. So this is Test Sprite's main page, and like you can read here, it is the easiest AI agent for software testing. So this is basically essentially software testing. We're going to do software testing for your front end, for your back end, and for the integrations that we have set up. And it will write test cases for us, and it will try to resolve that for us as well. And all we need to do is give us some details of our API key or access to our code repository maybe. So let's just jump in. You'll need to sign in, of course, and they're free as of now of recording this, but they can go paid anytime. So just make sure if you're seeing it right now, it was free when I was using it. So I'll just give some basic details of my mention all of these, and I'll just name it. You get 150 free credits in the first free account of it, and then you can name your test to be Dharatal SaaS test. Give the name for API. I'm giving it to be Stripe. If you're not sure of what to drop here, like I'm also getting a little bit confused. So no need to worry. Just take a screenshot, take a full page screenshot, go back to your coding IDE and drop that image and just ask it to, hey, I want these details to be dropped. Can you give me what went? And essentially what we're asking is we're asking the API endpoints that we have created right now in our backend. So what API endpoints, whether we have created them in fast API, whether we used REST API. So we need the API name along with the API endpoint that we have created, along with the authentication type, what kind of authentication we have set up. So, but we need to tell it whether we are using bearer key or API key or basic authentication, what kind of authentication it is. And we also need to drop some of our API documentation if we have any. So let's wait for, so it will also create an API documentation where which will drop directly. So right now we're not a very backend heavy MVP which we have created. It is more focused on the front end functionality right now. But if we had a full backend that we wanted to write unit tests on and do testing on how that is being called and how we are receiving responses, then we could have had a proper documentation. So I'll ask it to create that for me in a markdown format. So it will give that as well and write unit tests for us. And for the front end, I don't think we need to give anything specifically. So it is creating an API docs.md file. We need to drop it as a PDF, but for now, our information use case will just drop all that here directly. Okay, perfect. So it has now written this. We'll just copy paste this directly. If you want, you can skip back testing also. If we don't have anything else, we can skip back testing. But in our case, we could have done that for Stripe integration. For the front end part, we'll just directly copy paste the URL where our website is hosted. So you can also give it a sample username and values. So I'll give it my name, the ones that I've signed in with, my past. So now it is generating a test plan for us, how it is going to test the front end and back end for us. So I'll show you how it does that. So essentially what it is trying to do is trying to come up with unit tests and edge function cases where our code might break. So it is trying to write those, and it has created a draft test plan for us, and the AI analyzed the website link and everything. So this is the test plan summary. The URL uploaded is only one. Total test cases that it has planned are 7, and these are of very high priority. These are medium priority. These are low priority. So this is homepage navigation links. This is authentication button. So all of these it created along with some simple test descriptions, and now it will try to generate and execute these tests. And if any of these fail, it'll come up with an issue saying that these are not working, so you need to look into those. So let's give it a minute or two, and it'll generate some responses for us. So I'm only focusing on the front end for now and not showing for the back end because this video is becoming too long for that. But essentially you got the idea of how test sprite can be used for backend testing and front end testing. So if you have backend API implementation already built, if you had used fast API to build some API endpoints, you could drop them directly there. But in our case, we only had Stripe, so I'm not covering that since that is already present, and we don't need to on that section because ours is a simple website which has only front end right now, which we focused on, and nothing on the back end built. No API endpoints on the back end side. So let's see how it responds on the front end. Okay, so it came up with some test cases, and we have passed almost all of them with the code that it wrote for the test cases. It uses Playwright. I see here it used Playwright, and along with that Chromium to run those test cases, and we have passed most of them. But if you don't understand any of the test cases how they work, you can also chat here. So what is this about? So it will help me understand what this test case was doing, and if we passed it and if we failed it, what actually happened here. So did this check my navigation section? So this test case indeed checked the navigation section of the home page by verifying that all navigation links led to their respective correct pages. Thank you. Okay. And we see that this is failing. This is image loading test. So based on current state of the page, I can see that there are 3 images present. However, the last action to check one of the images has not been executed successfully due to the last action error. Therefore, I need to check okay. And okay, it is saying that the visual content was not loaded appropriately, so the image loading test has failed. So in case if you see anything that has happened like this, it's better to run the test case once again. Sometimes it fails without reason, or sometimes it is not able to get it right in the first go. So it's better to rerun the test, and if it is still failing, you just need to copy the test that it has provided and just drop that into your ID to fix, and then it should hopefully get fixed. So it's generating and executing the test case again. So let's wait for that. If it is still failing, we'll copy this test case that it has written and give it to cursor. Okay, so now as you can see, I've not made any changes. I just rerun the test cases that it had written, and it is now working perfectly. So the image loading test, sometimes that can happen when your playwright tries to take screenshots of your UI, and sometimes it misses something. So that image loading test can fail sometimes. But mostly it was perfect. So we don't need to run any of the test cases, or there are no test cases that we failed. So there's nothing to rework right now. So I'll just click on next, and it will generate a test report and analysis for us. So if we also had some backend that needed to be worked upon, we would see that. But right now we only had one URL that we needed to test, and we have passed all the tests. So you get a test summary, what could be better, and recommendations going forward. So this is how you use test sprite basically. So that is it for the testing and fixing of your code. So that is everything that you needed to cover today. So we've covered all the aspects. This is the end of presentation now. So this was it for this masterclass, and we're done with all the topics. I tried to shove all the content in as less time as possible, while making sure that you understand what is actually happening on screen. So we started from a core idea of what we wanted to build, and eventually translating that into code, along with setting up integrations along the way. Our web app has all the functionalities that we want inside it, to eventually hosting it, how to host it on a platform, and then how to make sure that we run tests on it, maintain it. I try to cover all of those topics while using the best tools that are available in the market right now in 2025. So I know it becomes a very tedious job to keep track of all these tools that keep dropping in, and there is always a new tool that is available on the market doing the same thing that the next tool did 2 weeks ago. So which is out of those out of that haystack, which is the best tool to actually use? So I thought I tried to cover all of those topics here, and hopefully it added some value to your building journey. If you decide to build a your web app, or you have an idea that you always wanted to give a try on. So this, hopefully, if you're from a non-technical background, or even if from a technical background, you found something valuable from it. So do let me know how was this video, how you found it. If you still stuck around to the end, if you're watching this, props to you. I didn't think I would have stuck. Thanks to everyone who is watching this. Hopefully, if you like this kind of content, just drop a comment that hey, I want you to make more videos like this. Anything that you want me to cover. I'm thinking of covering UGC content in the next video, but if you still want me to stay on these kind of videos, vibe coding and the best text to UI tool, or best coding tool, whatever, so let me know that as well. And thank you for watching it till here. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.